Okay, everybody is here. We're going to do our object-oriented programming example number 1. Again, I'm using console application. Once your console app is up, we can write some code to hold the screen, which is console.readKey. And this is where we will going to use some object-oriented example code. But before we get to code object-oriented example, we need to first create our classification and a class which is a generalization of the idea. Let's say I want to create a class. The purpose of the class will be to present with greetings. Okay, so now we will right-click on the VB project and we will add a new item. Now, as you can see in the list of the items shown down below, you can see class listed right there at the bottom. You can, if class is not listed down below here, then you can always click on new item and then you can click on class. Either way, the class will be available to you. The name of the class in our case is greeter. Greeter, that's the name of the class. And we're going to click add. The class is created public so that everybody within the project can utilize the class. If class was private, then nobody would be able to see him. Now inside the greeter class, I will going to create one method or one procedure, public sub greet console.writeLine. Welcome to VB.NET Object-Oriented Programming. So we have a class called greeter in which we have created a method called greet. So that's all we are putting in this class. After this, we will going to move on to our main method, and then we will learn how you can call the greet, which is inside the greeter class. So now let's double click on module 1. As I double click on module 1, I am back in the main method. This is where I will declare my variable of class type. So by the way, variable of class type is called an object of class type or an instance of class type. Those two terminologies are generally used with objects. We generally declare variables using this syntax, right? Dim variable name as class. Correct? Okay. Now, this syntax is sufficient if it was just a variable. But since this is an instance, it also needs the word new so that the memory can be allocated and a call to a special method called greeter. I'll explain both of these words as to what they mean and what they are. New is a keyword for memory allocation for the object. Greeter is a special as method or subprocedure defined to help class initialize its properties with their initial values. Even if the class doesn't have any properties, it still needs an initialization process, some memory allocation process, and that's done with the help of the special method. This special method, which has the same name as the class, is called Constructor, and it's required to instantiate an object. Again, look at these 5 words: dim, greeter, as greeter. The first greeter is the name of the instance. After as, we have the name of the class. This object or instance needs memory allocation, and in that memory allocation, it needs initialization. So new is doing memory allocation, greeter is doing memory initialization. This whole line is called object instantiation. I know I'm throwing a lot of keywords at you, but that's why I'm putting them down in comments so that you could see what instantiation means. Instantiation means all of what I wrote in comments from lines 6 through 12. That's called instantiation. So once you understand what instantiation is, then it means all of that. So variables are declared and they allocate memory. Objects do not allocate memory if you just declare them. So if I only write this much, my object is not allocating any memory. It only declared. For my object to allocate memory and initialize that memory, I need to complete my syntax like this. Okay, next. Now that I have the object created, I can use this object to call methods inside the class. So I can say greeter dot, and notice as soon as I put a dot, among all of these items, which item do you think is user defined? I created in the greeter only the greet, and that's how I can reference greet. So I have created an object of class type, and now I can see inside that class and I can make references. Okay, we will now save the changes, and that's the only message in greet. Okay guys, the next thing we will do is we will customize the class greeter. So if you click on the greeter tab, you must have 2 tabs open up there. So where I have the parentheses for greet, I would like to introduce a parameter over here, which is name of the person who is to perform the greeting. So name as string. Console.writeLine greeter name is this. So I added a parameter, and other than adding the parameter, I've added a line which is the name of the greeter. Now let's switch over to the main, and notice the greet is now giving me an error because the receiver greet now needs a parameter. So now I will going to say greeter.greet Sam. And as soon as I put a name in double quotes, the error goes away. Now go ahead and run this. And now you will notice that there are two outputs, two lines of output. Welcome to VB.net, greeter name, Sam. One of the advantages of this process is that now you can call the greeter.greet again and simply change the name. And now it will going to do the same process again with a different greeter. And go ahead and run it again. One for Sam and one for Mary. Okay, everybody get that? Okay. Now let's switch back to greeter. And in the greeter, we will going to now introduce a class property. As I was telling you before, class is something that has properties and behaviors. So this is basically a class member in our attribute is what we basically call it. So class field or attribute. Public message as string. Okay. Now instead of locking myself into this message, I would now like to be able to change this message from the main. So that's why whatever that message is what I would like to display before I display the name of the greeter. And I should be able to control the message from the main. Okay. Now, switching back to the main module, this is where before I call upon the greeting, I can use the same object greeter to set the message. So I just made a slightly different message than our first one, just so that you could see the difference. So now I'm changing the message to this message. And now go ahead and run it. That will be the message with each one of them. Welcome to OOP, greeter Sam. Welcome to OOP, greeter Mary. If I want to have a different message for Mary than Sam, then I can change my greeting message before I call Mary. And I can say a greeter dot message equals to hello programmer, and the greeter is Mary. So now when you run it, for Sam, the message will be welcome to OOP. For Mary, the message will be hello programmer. Now let's switch back to the class. Just like you can create a sub-procedure, you can also create a function. I'm just doing a simple example here where I'm returning a code of 1001. And now we're going to switch back to the main method where we will going to now, since it's a function call, I would have to do it in a console.writeLine method. Code is greeter dot So now code is being concatenated with the value that will be returning back.
The conference will end in 10 minutes.
So now when you run it, you are going to get this output. So R&D generates a random number between 0 and 1. And when I run it, it generates a different random number between 0 and 10,000. And since random generates a decimal number, even if I times it by 10,000, therefore I am converting it to an integer. What math.ceiling does, it always rounds up. So if it is 5.1 or 5.9, it always rounds up to 6. That's what math.ceiling does. So now I'm randomly generating the code for every greeter. That's all I'm doing there.